Your company just dropped the RTO bomb. 5 days in office, no exceptions. Your gut says quit. Your mortgage says comply. But here's what your gut and mortgage both miss. Most employees treat RTO mandates like ultimatums. They're not. They're opening positions in a negotiation most people don't realize they're having. This is career cheat codes. Today, the framework for reading what your company actually wants and positioning yourself to get what you need. Here's what nobody's telling you about RTO in 2026. The headlines scream about mandates, but only 27% of companies have actually gone fully in person. That means 73% are still hybrid or remote. The gap between what companies threaten and what they enforce? That's where your leverage lies. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to read your situation and which of the three moves makes sense for your specific circumstances. Let's set the scene. January 2025. Amazon orders 350,000 employees back full-time. Same month, the federal government issues its own blanket RTO mandate. April 2025. JP Morgan Chase eliminates remote work. By late 2025, nearly half of all companies announced 4+ day office requirements for 2026. April 2026. Home Depot calls all corporate staff back 5 days a week. The message from boardrooms is clear. The remote era is over. But here's where it gets interesting. The data tells a completely different story than the press releases, and understanding that gap is your first strategic advantage. Despite all those headlines, only 27% of companies are actually operating fully in person in 2026. That's barely more than 1 in 4. Meanwhile, 64% of remote workers say they would quit or immediately start job hunting if their employer eliminated remote work entirely. And companies are feeling the pain. 8 in 10 companies report losing talent specifically because of their RTO policies. That's 80% experiencing direct consequences. Here's the number that should really make you think. High-performing employees are 16% more likely to leave when facing strict RTO requirements. That's double the rate of average employees. Companies are disproportionately losing the people they most want to keep. So why would companies implement policies that drive away their best performers? This is where things get cynical, and where you need to pay attention. 1 in 4 executives admitted they were hoping some employees would quit when RTO policies were introduced. Let that sink in. A quarter of them want you gone. Nearly 1 in 5 HR leaders said the same thing. This is quiet firing, using policy to force resignations without the cost of layoffs. This changes everything about how you should respond. Because if the mandate is about headcount reduction, complying doesn't protect you. It just delays the inevitable. But if the mandate is genuinely about collaboration and culture, then negotiating flexibility might work. Your first job is figuring out which situation you're in. Here's how to read the room. Ask yourself, is my company hiring or freezing? Are they cutting budgets elsewhere? Have they mentioned headcount targets? If the answer is yes to any of those, the RTO mandate might be a workforce reduction tool disguised as a workplace policy. Your response should adjust accordingly. Now let's talk about the response data. When faced with a 5-day RTO mandate, employees split into 3 camps. And where you fall matters strategically. 44% of employees say they'd comply with a 5-day mandate. 41% would start job hunting while staying. And 14% would quit immediately. Most people will comply. That's the data. But here's the strategic insight. The 14% who quit immediately create opportunities for the 41% who search while staying. Because 85% of workers now say remote work matters more than salary when evaluating a new job. That's created a massive competitive advantage for companies still offering flexibility. If you're good at your job and willing to search, there's likely a competitor who will pay you the same money to work from home. That's your leverage. So let's break down the 3 options. Option 1. Comply. This makes sense if you genuinely like office culture, your commute is reasonable, or you have limited leverage. Compliance also makes sense if you're in a role that's easily replaceable or if you're less than 2 years into your career. Early career employees benefit more from in-person mentorship. But compliance isn't surrender. If you choose to go in strategically. Use the face time to build relationships that'll matter when the next reorg hits. Option 2. Quit. This is the right move if you have another offer in hand, if the company is clearly in cost-cutting mode, or if the commute would genuinely tank your quality of life. But never quit without an offer. Emotional exits feel righteous but create financial desperation. And desperation is the enemy of negotiating power. The data shows 64% of workers say they'd quit over RTO mandates. But the action data shows most don't. Words are free. Resignations cost money. Option 3. Call their bluff. This is where it gets interesting. Some RTO mandates are announcements, not enforced policies. Testing the boundary can reveal the difference. Here's what calling the bluff looks like in practice. You don't ghost the office. You come in 3 days when they said 5. You watch what happens. Remember, 80% of companies have lost talent to RTO policies. Many managers are quietly tolerating non-compliance from their best performers rather than lose more people. But calling the bluff only works if you have leverage. Leverage means you're hard to replace, you have institutional knowledge, or you have relationships that matter to revenue. If you're not sure whether you have leverage, you probably don't. And calling a bluff without leverage just makes you the example they use to enforce compliance on everyone else. So, how do you build leverage before you need it? This is the long game that most people neglect. And it's the reason some employees can negotiate while others can't. First, document everything. Your productivity metrics, your project wins, the revenue you've influenced. Build the case before you need to make it. Second, build relationships beyond your direct team. Cross-functional allies mean your departure creates problems in multiple places, not just one. Third, keep your external network warm. Update your LinkedIn monthly. Have coffee with recruiters even when you're not looking. Options create power. Now let's talk about the actual negotiation. If you decide to push for flexibility instead of complying or quitting, here's how to do it without becoming a target. Never negotiate in the moment the mandate is announced. Emotions are high, positions are hardening. Wait 2 weeks for the dust to settle before making your ask. When you do negotiate, be specific. I need flexibility is weak. 3 days in office, Tuesday through Thursday, with full remote on Mondays and Fridays is negotiable. Frame your ask around their interests, not yours. I'm more productive at home sounds like an excuse. My deep work happens at home, and my collaboration happens in office sounds like strategy. And critically, propose a trial period. Let me try this for 90 days and measure the results removes the permanence that makes managers nervous. Here's a question most people never ask, but should. Go directly to your manager and ask, is this policy about improving collaboration, or is it about headcount? A manager who believes in the policy will answer enthusiastically about culture and teamwork. A manager who knows it's quiet firing will get uncomfortable. That discomfort tells you everything. Remember, 1 in 4 executives and 1 in 5 HR leaders admitted the mandate was designed to make people quit. Your manager probably knows if they're in that group. What if you ask and get a non-answer? That's data too. A company that can't articulate why they want you in office probably hasn't thought it through, which means the policy may not last. Let me give you the rapid-fire decision framework. Ask yourself these 5 questions. Your answers should guide your response. 1. Is my company hiring or cutting? Cutting means RTO might be quiet firing. 2. Am I a high performer with institutional knowledge? That's leverage. Do I have an external offer or active prospects? Options change everything. 4. Would my departure create pain in multiple departments? That's power. 5. What's my commute reality? If it's 90 minutes each way, the math on 5 days simply doesn't work. That's not weakness, it's physics. If you answered yes to questions 2 through 4, you likely have the leverage to negotiate or call the bluff. If you answered no to most of them, compliance while you build options might be smarter. And here's the truth nobody talks about. Sometimes the right answer is to comply for now while building your exit plan. That's not giving up. That's being strategic. The 41% who said they'd job hunt while complying? They understand something the immediate quitters don't. Having a job while searching gives you negotiating power at your next company too. Companies know you have options. The 2026 labor market still favors workers in most knowledge economy roles. Flex companies are actively poaching from rigid ones. 85% of workers prioritize remote work over salary. That means every company offering flexibility has an automatic advantage in attracting talent from companies that don't. Your move isn't just about your current job. It's about positioning yourself for the next 5 years of career development. Think beyond the immediate mandate. The RTO battle of 2026 will reshape the labor market for years. Companies that lose talent will eventually soften their positions. The question is whether you can outlast them. With 80% of companies already having lost talent to RTO, the feedback loop is building. Pain creates policy reconsideration. Your departure might be the data point that changes their approach. But don't martyr yourself for a cause. Strategic departures beat emotional exits every time. Leave with an offer, leave on good terms, and leave the door open. Because here's the thing about RTO mandates. Policies change faster than careers. The manager enforcing today's mandate might be recruiting you back in 18 months. So here's your action plan for the next 48 hours. First, assess your leverage honestly. Document your wins, map your relationships, check your replaceability. Second, research the market. Update your resume, check competitor openings, and reach out to one recruiter. Even if you're not leaving, know your options. Third, read your company's signals. Are they hiring or freezing? Expanding or contracting? Use the context to determine if RTO is genuine or just quiet firing. Fourth, wait. Don't react immediately. Let the emotion pass. The right move in week 3 is often different than the right move in hour 3. RTO mandates are leverage tests disguised as policy announcements. The employees who win are the ones who understand the game being played and play it better. Comply, quit, or call their bluff. Each option has its place. Your job is matching the right response to your specific situation. That's the real cheat code. If this hit home, subscribe for more career frameworks that actually work. Leave a comment with your RTO situation. I read every single one. See you next week.